Welcome back to In Frame Brooklyn. Charlie from Real Brooklyn Films here. And I know it's been a while, and a lot of stuff's been going on. A lot of stuff about Rising Tides, a lot of stuff about the new documentary, which is actually sort of coming together, and a little bit about a sort of failed attempt at a documentary, which is not quite dead, but I don't know where it's going. So we'll talk about that right after this. So welcome back. There's a whole lot to talk about, but let's talk about Rising Tides first. So I have spoken about possibly Rising Tides being on the YouTube documentary channel, and I was in talks with them, and then apparently, after looking at my stuff, my content isn't what they want to put on their channel. I'm not going to get into what they have on their channel, but I'm kind of glad that my movies aren't on their channel. Let's just leave it at that. However, I decided to release it on YouTube, on my channel, and we have almost 5,000 views. People like it. We got a lot of likes. We've actually got more subscribers now. We're almost at 200 subscribers, which for me is pretty cool. But more than that, we got accepted into the 2024 Environmental Film Festival and the Environmental Film and Screenplay Festival. And we won Best Feature, which is amazing. And what was great about this festival, it's a two-step festival. First, they do like a live screening for like 200 people. Then those people do these video reviews about your movie. And then you get to see the video reviews. And all of mine were amazing. What was really interesting, and which is really cool when you make a documentary, you start a documentary and you have an idea of what you want to get out of it and what you want people to get out of it and the reason for making it. For me, making Rising Tides was to take the climate change argument and make it so simple that anybody could understand it. That anybody watching the movie will come away with a better understanding of what climate change is.
Rising Tides. I really appreciated this piece because it was both informative and had a strong call to action very clearly laid out throughout the piece, but there was also an approachability and an authenticity to this piece that I think a lot of climate change documentaries miss out on. And by establishing the filmmaker expressing his mission, where he's coming from, his position, and allowing us to connect to him in a really authentic way, made this feel more genuine. And it felt like this was approachable content for anybody. And I think that's really important to get to that middle ground.
All of the comments that I got were exactly that. How they learned things that they never knew before, how they were more informed about climate change now. It was amazing. The comments were amazing.
I really liked the use of news footage and other footage that was edited in to this. I thought that it was really smart to use that to kind of drive the point home. I thought that the interviews with everybody that the filmmakers chose, it was really educational, and their perspectives on things were really insightful about, climate change and kind of what's happening to the world.
And then the second part of the festival is they do an international screening, an online screening of all the winning films. So we got a lot of exposure for the movie, which is amazing. I'm very happy. It certainly went out to more people than I ever thought it would. So, and winning Best Feature is just like, hey, I'm an award-winning filmmaker now, which is pretty cool. So Rising Tides is pretty much done, and we've given it to the world. Next, the next project that I'm working on, I can't exactly say what it's about. It's a sensitive subject, and we are sort of in the development pre-production phase. We actually may have some budget money coming. I may know this week or next. So until then, I can't really talk about what it's about, but it's a serious topic. It's not going to be a feel-good movie, but it's a movie that needs to be made. So that's coming along. I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen in the next couple of months. So as we get into it, we'll certainly get into it on the channel. It's definitely going to be more involved. I'm going to have more help on this, so there's going to be a lot more BTS on this shoot. There's going to be new gear on this shoot, which we'll talk about. There's going to be an upgrade on all of my gear because there's going to be a budget for that. So we'll talk about that. And I think that it's going to be a powerful documentary, probably the most powerful one that I've made so far. So we'll get into that when the time comes. Let's talk about the failed documentary, because it is let's talk about an exercise in futility. So a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I read an article about hostile architecture. What is hostile architecture? Well, in New York, I'm sure other cities too, there are places where the MTA, which is the Metropolitan Transit Authority, and expensive buildings and parks have put obstacles in places where homeless people, what we call unhoused people, would sleep, stay. And what we're talking about is we're talking about like spikes coming out of the ground, like big spikes on top of like walls and fences, places where somebody would be able to sit. They've taken all of the bus stops and they've made the benches so that you can't lay down on them. There's like each seat has got these like big sort of arms that come up for the seat, so you can't stretch out on the bench like people used to do. Also in the subways now, they have these benches that are like slanted like this. So they're not really benches. They're we call them leaners. It's a concerted effort to move the homeless along so they're not loitering, so they're not sleeping. So I found out about this idea of hostile architecture, and I started sort of deep diving into that idea. And I thought it would make a good documentary. Living in New York my whole life, I was unaware of the hostile architecture. But once I started going into it, it's a thing. There are a lot of articles written about it. And it's definitely, for the MTA and the city, it's a concerted effort. And then you've got these very expensive buildings where outside they'll put like these plates in the ground that have got like these bolts with nuts and bolts coming out of the bottom, so you can't sit on them. I mean, really, you can see how deliberate it is. So I started sort of looking into that. And like I do with any documentary, I'm sort of getting into this while I'm waiting for the other documentary to sort of, blossom and get funded. I figured this I could do here. It's in New York. I could do it on a low budget with the gear that I have. And I started reaching out to people. I started reaching out to like reporters who like wrote articles on this, city activists, homeless foundations in New York, shelters, because what I'm doing is tying this idea of the hostile architecture into the homeless problem in New York. And I figured this would be a great way to sort of get into that and talk about why somebody would choose to be on the street as opposed to inside a shelter. So that's sort of the correlation of the argument. Not to mention that these benches and all this stuff, it's detrimental to the elderly. It's detrimental to the disabled, people who can't sit down, who need to sit down while they're waiting for a bus or whatever it is. So it's not just affecting the homeless. It's tangentially affecting other people. So I started reaching out to these people. And normally when I reach out to people about a documentary subject, I'm reaching out to people who are on like sort of my side of the story. And normally they get back to me and they're happy to be involved, they're happy to be interviewed. So I reached out to a couple of people. At first, just some of the reporters who wrote the articles, so I could talk to them about who they spoke to, and then reach out to those people, which is the way I normally do it. And like with Rising Tide, I reached out to Christopher Magg, who's a friend of mine now, who was a writer for the New York Times, and he wrote the original article. And then from him, I got all the other people, the little branches who I needed to talk to. So with this, I was calling it actually Hostile New York City. New York City's war against the homeless. I thought that was a kind of catchy thing. Well, nobody got back to me in the first round. And then I heard back from one woman who was happy to sort of be involved. She's in, basically, her thing is urban architecture, and hostel architecture is one of the things that she's big about. So I thought that was a good sign. And then nothing. None of the people that I reached out to got back to me at all. I thought, okay, it's the holidays, maybe I'll. So another round of emails. I usually wait about a week, and then I sent out another round of emails. Nothing. And it started to occur to me that this is very strange. I'm not even getting like, sorry, I can't be involved, which sometimes happens, like when I deal with like nonprofits who are not allowed to get involved in a movie that has an opinion. Understandable. So I'm getting nothing. so another round of emails, I get nothing. I had some sociologists who are involved in urban planning, urban architecture, the homeless. I reached out to them. Nothing. So I'm thinking now, I thought this was a good idea for a documentary. Everybody that I spoke to thought this was a good idea for a documentary. And it's stalling. I never had this happen before. So where I'm at now is I'm kind of just in limbo with this. So I may move forward with this idea. I may not. This may be one of those, this just doesn't have the legs that I needed to for it to become an actual documentary. So that's that's where I am with that. So, but going back to the other documentary, the one that it looks like it's going to happen, I'm going to be doing a full gear upgrade, and we can talk about that next. So, let's talk briefly about what I'm going to be upgrading to, and we'll get more into it once I do upgrade and I have everything in hand, and we can talk about the real details. But so most of you know that all of my documentaries I've been shooting on my Canon EOS R6 with the Ninja 5, and it's been great, and I've had no problems, and Rising Tides looks great. I had one complaint, and it was about some exposure problems that I had when I was on Long Island, which I know about. But it's been a workhorse. But I really have to up my game, and since there's real money on this new documentary, I'm going to be upgrading my whole kit. So what does that mean? I'm a Canon guy, so I will always stick with Canon. And we all, if you at all follow what's going on out there, the new Canon C400, which you can see here, is going to be my A-cam. I'm going to get that. I'm going to rig it all out, and then we're going to get the C80 here, the new C80, as our B-cam. And they both match. They have the same sensor. They both have like 10 stops of neutral density of ND. They both are triple-based ISO. We can get into that later, but what that means is that you can shoot in a wide variety of lighting situations, from very bright to very dark, and get really nice image quality. And the other thing we're going to get is really nice cinema glass for the first time for these cameras. We're going to be getting the DZO Kata Ace zoom lenses, and those are right here, probably over my face right now. The reason for this is because this is going to be my 5th documentary film, and it's time to up my game. I know, like in my book, I talk about going low budget, and absolutely, on your first documentary, shoot with whatever you got, iPhone, any DSLR, digital DSLR that you got. You just got to get out and shoot your movie, and I'm 100% behind that. But having done 4 films now with the R6, it is at the edge of not being quite broadcast quality anymore, even though I'm shooting 4K, 24, 23, 9. So the new kit's going to be the C400, the C80, really good glass. We're going to get some new lighting. I'm from Rising Tides, where I use mostly natural light. I really want this new project to it's going to have a definite stylistic feel, and that's going to mean more lighting. And so I've got some ideas about augmenting my lighting kit to facilitate that look that I have in my head. There's a couple of storylines, and we'll get into it, but I can't get into it now. In this movie, two sort of people, families that we're going to be following, and I want a particular feeling for this. So we're going to upgrade our lighting. We are going to get ourselves some really nice labs. We're going to go with the DJI, labs that are out there now. DJI, sorry. And just every aspect of my kit, I'm going to upgrade. And it's been a long time. So basically, I got all this gear when I made the Trump movie back in 2021. So we're talking about, almost 5 years of using the same stuff, and happy to do it. The sun keeps coming in and out. I think the lighting is changing. So we'll get into all of that. Once I get the kit, once we get it all together, we'll talk about the actual what I'm thinking about with looks. We'll pull up some mood boards. We'll talk about some pictures about what I'm thinking and how we're going to go about doing that lighting, because lighting is important, as we talked about in my book. Lighting is important, and I want this particular movie to be more stylistic than my last two. So that's going to be something. I'm also bringing on some help with this one because I can't do this all myself anymore. I am broken, as you will be when you get to my age, doing this for 25 years. So I'm bringing on an assistant who will be my assistant, my BTS shooter, my BCam shooter, as well as all around PA to help us with this shoot. There's gonna be a lot of traveling on this shoot too. So when we get into the budget, I can show you how we budgeted out the travel, all the hotels that are going to be involved in this thing. It's a much larger project than we've done in the past, so it's going to be an interesting thing to follow as we go. And I will, there'll be a lot of BTS on this, so we'll get that up on the channel. So that's it for now. If you have any questions. Like I said, I'll get more into what this movie is about as soon as we have a green light, which could be in the next 2 weeks. And then we talk about the budget and everything else. Rising Tides is on my YouTube channel. You can watch it. It's an award-winning film. I also put up the Trump movie. I figure right now is a good time for people to watch it. So that's on there. It's getting more views actually now. I changed the algorithm on that, so watch that. It's on there, and that's it. I hope this was interesting. At least a little catch up, and I'm going to try to post more. At least maybe every 2 weeks as we go forward. Charlie from Real Brooklyn Films, www.realbrooklynfilms.net. Charlie RBFNYC @gmail.com, and remember. Keep shooting.